I used to think the worst sound in the world was the flat line of a heart monitor. I was wrong. The worst sound is the one you never expect to hear. It's the sound of your wife's laughter tangled with a stranger's, echoing from the bedroom that was supposed to be your sanctuary. It's the sound of your entire future shattering into a million unrecognizable pieces, all in the space of a single stolen breath. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I did something far more destructive. I walked away, and I made sure I had the best seat in the house to watch the aftermath. They say love is blind. I think that's only half true. Love isn't blind, it's a master decorator. It takes the crumbling, ugly parts of someone and paints over them with the most beautiful, forgiving colors. It hangs curtains over the cracked windows of their character and tells you the view is spectacular. For 5 years, I lived in the house that love built for me and my wife, Rebecca. And what a beautiful house it was. I met Rebecca at a friend's wedding. She was a bridesmaid, a burst of sunlight in a sea of formal wear. She had this way of laughing that made you feel like you were the wittiest person on earth. Her passion was intoxicating. She was an artist, a writer, a budding entrepreneur. Her dreams were as vast and changeable as the ocean. I was a 33-year-old structural engineer, a man who built things meant to last. She was the beautiful, unpredictable storm that I wanted to spend my life weathering. I was the anchor, steady, reliable. I made good money, not private jet money, but comfortable life in a nice apartment with a view of the city skyline money. I covered the mortgage, the utilities, the groceries, the insurance, the foundation of our existence. Rebecca's passions were the decoration. She'd get a wild idea, hand-painted ceramics, a subscription box for rare teas, a lifestyle blog, and pour herself into it for months. The income was sporadic at best. Mostly it was an outflow. But I didn't mind. I truly didn't. I loved her fire. I believed in her. I told myself and her that we were a team. I handled the practical, and she handled the magic. I'd come home from a long day of stress and calculations, and she'd transform the living room into a bohemian den, burning incense and talking about her latest vision. She'd feed me some exotic dish she'd spent the afternoon perfecting and talk about her 5-year plan with such conviction that I could almost see it. The success, the fame, the payoff for all my steadfast support. I was building us a fortress, beam by solid beam. I just didn't realize she'd been building a secret door out of it the whole time.
The trip to Hartford was supposed to be 3 days, a tedious but necessary site inspection for a new bridge project. The November rain had other plans, turning the site into a mud pit and canceling the second day of work. Instead of sitting in a generic hotel room for another night, watching the water streak down the window, I decided to drive home. A surprise. I'd pick up her favorite tiramisu from that little Italian place on the way, a bottle of Pinot Noir, maybe light a fire. We could have an unexpected, romantic Wednesday evening. The traffic was hell, the rain was relentless, but the thought of her smile kept me going. It was just after 8 p.m. when I finally pulled into my parking spot under our building. Our apartment was on the 12th floor. I remember the elevator ride up, the familiar hum, my reflection in the brushed steel doors. I looked tired, but happy. I was the devoted husband, coming home with a sweet treat for his beautiful, creative wife. I slid my key into the lock. It was quiet. Maybe she was painting in the spare room, headphones on, lost in her world. I pushed the door open. The first thing I noticed was the smell. It wasn't her usual sandalwood incense. It was something else, something vaguely familiar, but out of place. Something masculine, a cologne I didn't recognize. Then I heard it, the sound, a giggle, hers, unmistakable, followed by a low, rumbling laugh I'd never heard before. It came from down the hall, from our bedroom. My body went cold. My feet, suddenly made of lead, carried me forward anyway. The hallway seemed to stretch for miles. The tiramisu box felt icy in my hand. The door to our bedroom was ajar. A soft, golden light spilled out onto the dark hardwood floor. I pushed it open. The image imprinted itself on my brain with the brutal, hyper-real clarity of a nightmare. The discarded clothes on the floor that weren't mine. The rumpled duvet on the king-sized bed I'd bought because she said she loved having space to sprawl. And in the center of it all, Rebecca. My Rebecca. Her skin flushed, her hair a mess against the pillows, and a guy with broad shoulders and dark hair, his back to me.
Time didn't slow down. It stopped. The air was sucked from the room, from my lungs. Rebecca's eyes, hazy and content, flickered over his shoulder and met mine. The color drained from her face. Her mouth, which had been curved in a smile, fell open. "Daniel?" she whispered, the name a choked gasp. The man, him, froze and started to turn. I didn't wait to see his face. I didn't want a name. I didn't want a story. A story could be lied about, argued over, twisted. This image was pure, undiluted truth. It was all the answer I would ever need. The 5 years of love, of support, of building a life together, it vaporized. The beautiful house of love collapsed into dust in an instant, and all that was left was the cold, hard ground of reality. The anger was there, a white-hot Nova begging to be unleashed. I could have thrown the tiramisu. I could have roared. I could have crossed the room and tried to tear him apart with my bare hands. But what would that have proven? It would have made me a character in this sordid little drama. The enraged husband, a cliché. I refused. I looked right at her, my face a mask of perfect, chilling calm. I held her terrified gaze for 3 full seconds. I saw the panic, the shame, the desperate calculations beginning to flicker behind her eyes. I let her see the absolute death of everything we were in mine. Then I turned. I walked out of the bedroom, back down that long hallway. I went to the front door where my unpacked suitcase from the aborted trip still stood. I grabbed the handle. "Daniel, wait, please, it's not what you think." Her voice was a shrill, desperate thing chasing me down the hall. She'd wrapped herself in a sheet, her footsteps padding frantically behind me. I stopped at the front door and looked back at her one last time. The man was hiding in the bedroom, no doubt pulling on his jeans. The scene was pathetic. I felt nothing, a vast, empty silence where my heart used to be. I opened the door, looked at the woman I had called my wife, and said the only 3 words that mattered anymore. "Pay your own rent." Then I stepped out into the hallway, pulling the door shut behind me. It closed with a soft, final click. It was the quietest, most devastating sound I have ever heard. The elevator ride down was a surreal descent into a new life. My reflection in the metal doors was the same. Same face, same suit, same tired eyes. But the man inside was a stranger. He was cold. He was precise. He was free. The hotel was a generic business-class place 4 blocks away. I paid in cash for 1 night. The room was beige and silent. I placed my suitcase by the door, sat on the edge of the bed, and took out my phone and laptop. The emotion was gone. Now it was all about the math. First, the money. Our joint account was at a national bank with a 24/7 app.
It took me 90 seconds to transfer every last cent, just over $18,000, into a new private account I just opened in those same 90 seconds. Our savings, my savings, the money I'd earned to secure our future. I left 34 cents. A parting gift. Next, my paycheck. An email to HR sent at 9:17 p.m. from that anonymous hotel room. Due to potential fraudulent activity, please immediately reroute all future payroll deposits to the following new account. I provided the details. It would be processed by morning.
Then the credit cards. Both were primarily in my name, with her as an authorized user. 2 calls to an automated system. To remove an authorized user, please say or enter the security code. 2 clicks on my keyboard. User removed. Cards associated with that user are now deactivated. The sound of the automated voice confirming the action was like a hammer driving a nail. The apartment lease was next. It was in both our names, but I was the primary signatory, the one whose credit and income had qualified us. I found the scanned copy in my email. I drafted a new email to our building management company with the lease attached. Please be advised that my spouse, Rebecca Miller, is no longer residing at the above address and is to be removed from the lease effective immediately. I, as the primary leaseholder, will be assuming full and sole financial responsibility. I hit send. It was done. I looked at the clock on the laptop. 9:48 p.m. In less than an hour, I had systematically dismantled the financial infrastructure of her life. I had pulled every single lever I had spent 5 years building. My phone began to vibrate. It skidded across the faux wood desk like a trapped insect. Her name flashed on the screen. A photo I'd taken of her, laughing on a beach in Maui, filled the display. I felt a distant, phantom twinge of pain, like a limb that had been amputated. I declined the call. It started again, and again. I put the phone on silent, screen down, and went to take a shower. The water was scalding hot, but I still felt cold. I stood under the spray until my skin was red. When I got out, the phone showed 17 missed calls and a string of text messages.
The texts were a journey in themselves. Daniel, please answer. I'm so sorry. It was a mistake. Please, we can talk about this. You can't just leave like this. It was one time. Daniel, the car just declined at the gas station. What did you do? Did you close the account? Are you insane? Call me right now. This isn't funny. You're really going to be this cruel over one mistake? Answer your phone, you bastard! I read them all. I felt nothing. I ordered a steak from room service, ate it methodically, and went to sleep. I slept deeply, dreamlessly. The sleep of the dead or the liberated. The next morning, the real work began. I called a lawyer, a pit bull of a man named Robertson, whose firm specialized in high-conflict divorces. I told him the story, factually, without emotion. He didn't need emotion, he needed facts. You've taken the correct first steps, he said, his voice a low gravel. Now let's keep the momentum. Do not engage. Document everything. She will get desperate. Desperate people make mistakes. We'll be waiting. I extended my hotel stay for a week. I went to work. I focused on my blueprints, my stress calculations, the clean, logical world of physics and engineering. It was my sanctuary. Meanwhile, my phone became a window into her escalating chaos. The texts evolved from angry to panicked to downright unhinged. The management company called. They said I'm not on the lease anymore. You can't do that. I live here. My car payment bounced. The bank is calling. How am I supposed to get to job interviews? You canceled the Apple Music? Seriously? What is wrong with you? I had to call my mom for money. I hope you're happy. Please, Daniel, I have nothing. I'm so scared. I made a terrible mistake. I love you. I'll do anything. I showed them all to Robertson. Good, he'd grunt. Very good.
I had a few mutual friends reach out. Their message is cautious. Hey man, Rebecca's saying some crazy stuff. Is everything okay? I replied with one sentence, copied and pasted. I'm sorry you're involved. I came home from my business trip early last Wednesday night. That's all I can say right now. It was a depth charge. They all knew what that meant. The calls from friends stopped. After 2 weeks, the eviction notice would have been posted on the apartment door. I knew because the building manager, a stern woman named Brenda, who had always liked me, sent me a courtesy email. Process has been initiated per your request, Mr. Miller. The social media post started then. She didn't name me, but she didn't have to. Rebecca Miller. When you give someone everything and they throw you away like garbage, so heartbroken, karma will find you. Rebecca Miller. Sometimes the person you take a bullet for is the one behind the trigger, learning to survive. Rebecca Miller. Having a fire sale, life forces you to start over sometimes. Everything must go. She posted pictures of her jewelry, her designer handbags, the expensive art supplies I'd bought her, all priced to sell quickly. She was pawning her life, the life I'd funded, to pay for the life I was no longer funding. I watched it all from a distance, a silent observer. My lawyer advised me to block her, but I couldn't. This was my tiramisu, my bottle of Pinot Noir. This was the romantic evening I'd planned. This was my fire. A month after I walked out, Robertson called. We've been served, he said. She's filing for divorce. She's asking for spousal support, the apartment, half your 401k, the works. It's a Hail Mary. She's got a legal aid lawyer. They have no case.
What's next? I asked, staring out my new apartment window. I'd rented a furnished place with a month-to-month lease. It was sterile. It was quiet. It was mine. We wait, Robertson said. Her lawyer will realize quickly this is a sinking ship. Without your income, she can't afford her current lifestyle. Without evidence of you being at fault, which she doesn't have, she's entitled to nothing she didn't earn. And she earned nothing. The financial discovery process will be very short. She'll have to get a job, a real one. The clock is ticking on her. He was right. The texts became less frequent, then stopped altogether. The social media pleas for sympathy turned into pleas for work. Rebecca Miller, anyone know who's hiring? Experienced in admin, social media management, customer service, willing to learn. I allowed myself a grim smile. The passion projects weren't looking so passionate now that the electricity bill needed paying. I threw myself into my work, volunteering for the most complex, time-consuming projects. I started going to the gym. The physical exhaustion felt good. It was a pain I could control. I didn't date. I didn't really socialize. I was a planet in a stable, solitary orbit, watching the colorful supernova of Rebecca's life slowly fade to a cold, dark cinder. I thought that was the end of the story. The karmic justice was delivered. She was broke, alone, and struggling. I was moving on. I had won. I was wrong. The climax was yet to come.
It was a Tuesday afternoon, almost 3 months to the day since I'd walked out of our old life. I was reviewing seismic retrofit schematics when my desk phone rang. It was Brenda, the building manager from my old place. Mr. Miller? Daniel? Sorry to bother you at work, she said, her voice hushed and slightly anxious. That's all right, Brenda. What's up? It's about the tenant in 12B, Miss Miller. I sat up straighter. What about her? Well, the official eviction date is Friday. The sheriff is scheduled. But she's still there. And she's not alone. A cold trickle of dread ran down my spine. Not alone. A man, she whispered. He's been there for a few days. Looks rough. Not like the usual residents. He's been arguing with her in the hallway. Loudly. Something about money? I don't like it. It feels off. I know you're the legal leaseholder until the end of the month, and you've been so cooperative. I thought you should know, before something happens. The man. It had to be the man, the one from the bed. He'd moved in. The thought of him in my apartment, sleeping in my bed, made my stomach turn. But more than that, Brenda's tone scared me. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was a potentially dangerous situation. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you for telling me. Don't approach them. I'll handle it. I hung up and immediately called Robertson. I relayed the information. Interesting, he mused. This could work in our favor. A squatter, especially one with a questionable background, strengthens our position immensely. But you're right, it's a wild card. Do you want to be there on Friday when the sheriff executes the order? I didn't have to think about it. Yes.
Friday morning arrived, gray and drizzly. I met Robertson, a broad-shouldered man with a sharp suit and sharper eyes, in the lobby of my old building. He nodded to me. Brenda gave me a nervous smile from behind her desk. The sheriff's deputy, a large, calm man with a clipboard, arrived right on time. "Here to supervise a tenant removal?" he asked Brenda. "Yes, officer. 12B. The leaseholder is Mr. Miller here." She pointed to me. The deputy looked at me. "You ready?" "Yes, sir." The elevator ride up was tense and silent. We reached the door of 12B. The deputy knocked firmly. "Sheriff's Department, we're here to execute an eviction order. Please open the door." Nothing. He knocked again, harder. "Open the door or we will enter." We heard a scramble inside, muffled yelling. Then the door flew open. It was Rebecca. But it wasn't her. The vibrant, beautiful woman I'd married was gone. In her place was a pale, thin stranger with hollow eyes and unwashed hair. She was wearing sweatpants and a stained t-shirt. The apartment behind her was a disaster zone. Boxes were half-packed, clothes were strewn everywhere, and it smelled of stale food and desperation. "Daniel," she gasped, her eyes wide with shock and a flicker of hope. "What are you here to stop this?" She looked past me at the deputy and my lawyer, and her hope died. Her face crumpled. Before she could say anything else, a man appeared behind her. He was the one from the bed. I recognized the build, the hair. He was taller than me, with a scruffy beard and a defiant sneer. He looked like he'd been sleeping in his clothes. "What the hell is this, Becky?" he snarled, grabbing her arm roughly. "It's the cops, Tyler! I told you!" she whined, trying to pull away. "Ma'am, sir," the deputy said, his voice authoritative, "the eviction order is final. You need to gather any personal belongings you have on your person and vacate the premises immediately. The leaseholder is here to take possession." "He's the leaseholder?" Tyler spat, pointing a dirty finger at me. "This guy? This is the loser you were married to? He's the one who cut you off? You got a lot of nerve, man. You think you can just throw her out on the street." Robertson stepped smoothly between us. "The only person here with nerve is you, residing in a property you have no legal right to be. My client has every right to be here. You have none. Now, you will step aside and allow the law to proceed, or the deputy here will assist you. Your choice." Tyler's bravado wavered under Robertson's cool legal gaze, and the deputy's silent presence. He muttered a curse, but took a step back. Rebecca looked from him to me, her eyes pleading. "Daniel, please, you don't understand. He said he'd help me. He said he had money, but he doesn't have anything. He's been eating my food, using what's left of my things. I have nowhere to go." She started to cry. Real, ragged sobs of utter defeat. "I made a mistake. One stupid mistake, and you've destroyed me." I looked at her. I looked at the wreckage of the life we'd shared, now literally trashed and occupied by a parasite she'd chosen over me. I felt 1,000 things, a residual anger, a profound pity, but most of all, a vast and unshakable certainty that I had done the right thing.
"You didn't make one mistake, Rebecca," I said, my voice quiet but clear in the hallway. "You made a choice, and I made mine. You chose him, I chose me." My words were the final blow. She sank to her knees right there in the doorway, sobbing uncontrollably. Tyler looked down at her with disgust. "Get up, you pathetic mess," he muttered, making no move to help her. The deputy helped her to her feet. "Ma'am, you need to come with me. Now." Robertson and I stepped into the apartment. The deputy escorted a sobbing Rebecca and a sullen Tyler toward the elevator. I stood in the living room, surrounded by the ghosts of my past. The view was still spectacular. The space was still the same, but it was all poisoned. I walked to the bedroom. The bed was unmade, the sheets filthy. I didn't feel anger anymore. I felt a deep, cleansing revulsion. I turned to Robertson. "Sell everything. Whatever's left, donate the proceeds. I don't want any of it." He nodded. "Consider it done." We walked out, and I closed the door on that chapter of my life for the last time. Down in the lobby, I saw Rebecca sitting on a bench, her face in her hands. Tyler was nowhere to be seen. He'd undoubtedly vanished at the first sign of real trouble, leaving her to face the consequences alone. The final, brutal lesson in the choices she'd made. She didn't look up as I walked out into the drizzle. The divorce was finalized 6 weeks later. She got nothing. She didn't contest it. Her lawyer, overwhelmed and underpaid, advised her to take the deal. A clean break, no spousal support, no claims to any assets. She signed the papers somewhere across the city, and she vanished from my life.
I heard through the grapevine that she moved back to her hometown, a small, sleepy place she'd always complained was suffocating. She got a job as a receptionist at a dentist's office, the ultimate irony for the woman who dreamed of being her own boss, of living a life of creative passion. As for me, I sold the apartment. I took the money and bought a smaller, modern place on the other side of the city. The view is different. I like it better. I won't say I'm unscarred. What happened in that bedroom, what I saw, it leaves a mark. It makes you wary. It makes you question everything. Trust doesn't come easy anymore, but maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe blind trust is just another form of ignorance. People might hear this story and think I'm cold, calculated, cruel. Maybe I am. But that night, I didn't just walk away from a cheating wife. I walked away from the person I used to be, the gullible, lovesick man who built castles on foundations of sand. I built my new life on something stronger now. Concrete and steel, facts, self-reliance, the unshakable knowledge that I can walk through fire and not only survive, but come out cleaner on the other side. They say living well is the best revenge. I don't entirely agree. Revenge is watching someone face the direct, unflinching consequences of their own actions. Revenge is silence where there once was begging. It's stability where there is chaos.
is peace where there is despair. I loved her, once, with everything I had. And she took that love and she used it as a rug to wipe her feet on. So I pulled that rug out from under her, and I watched her fall.